Hey everybody, welcome back to another fun and exciting Algebra 2 class. Today we're going to be in lesson 10.6. We're going to be talking about counting today. Some of you are like, wait a second, counting? I did that when I was in first grade, not in Algebra 2. Well, here we are going backwards a little bit. No, it's a different kind of counting. It's a counting in statistics. So look down here at the screen. It's also on page 482. Counting in statistics is where there are more than one option and you need to count the total number of options possible. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, here's an example. If you have 4 options for the main course at lunch, so you can pick from hot dogs, pizza, chicken tenders, and hamburgers. Okay, so those are your 4 options for lunch. And you also get to choose from side items. So you could choose from apple slices, French fries, and coleslaw. Those are your 3 side items. Well, you have 12 possible meal combinations. If you're looking there in your book, you'll see the diagram there. You could have a hot dog with apples, you could have a hot dog with French fries, or you could have a hot dog with coleslaw. You could have pizza with apples, French fries, or coleslaw. You could have chicken tenders with apples, fries, or coleslaw. And you could have hamburgers with apples, fries, and coleslaw. Now, one way to count that is by saying, okay, hot dogs, apples. Okay, well, you had to do it with hot dogs with apples, hot dogs with fries, hot dogs with coleslaw. That's 3. Okay, the next one, pizza with apples. Pizza, you see what I'm doing? Just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what we're doing here. We're counting. Okay, some of you still use your hands when you count, right? You still use your fingers. You're like, stop doing that, Come on, you got to learn how to count. Now, there's an easier way to do it. Okay, what is the easier way to do it? If you look down here at the screen, I say this is found by multiplying the number of main dishes by the number of side dishes. In other words, we can take 4 main dishes multiplied by 3 side dishes. 4 times 3 equals 12. There are 12 total combinations. This is called, I wrote down there, this is called combinations, and it is denoted with a capital letter C. Now, we're going to get to that in a minute. What does that look like, and how do we solve that? You might think, well, that's easy. I just multiply. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but for the most part, you're right. Combinations do not take into account the order of which something must be selected. In other words, what I'm saying there is with a combination, it doesn't matter if you choose pizza first. There's not like you don't have to choose your main course first. You could choose apple slices first. You could say, I want some apple slices, and I want some pizza to go with my apple slices. So you could choose your side dish before you chose your main course. And there's no order. It doesn't have to follow a certain order. That's a combination, okay? So it's just any combination that will work. Now, the next one is called permutations. And if you look down there on page number 483, you'll see where it talks about permutations. A permutation is where it does take into account the order that something has to happen. Like, for example, here's an example that the book uses. In the Olympics, when you have your participants and the participants are competing, well, there are 3 medals. Okay, there's a gold, a silver, and a bronze. And it matters which order if you win, you get the gold medal. You don't get the silver medal, okay? If you come in second, you get the silver medal. And if you come in third, you get the bronze medal. So in other words, there's an order to it, okay? It's a ranking. And so that's permutations. So when the order counts, it has to be done in a certain order. That's called a permutation. When the order doesn't matter at all, that's called a combination. Permutations are denoted by a capital letter P. So when you see a capital letter P in math, it's talking about a permutation. and then there's a little other letters next to it. There's a small n to the left and a small r to the right. The r is for the individuals that are participating in the group, okay? And then the group size, the big group, is the n, okay? So make sure that you memorize that. The r is the individuals, and the n is the big group size. So before we can solve one of these, we need to talk about what is factorial notation. Some of you know what this is because you've seen it before, and others have never seen this before in your life, okay? It's a 6 with an exclamation point. And sometimes, you feel like algebra and English class got confused, and so you think right now, this guy's in the wrong class. He needs to go back to English class. Well, I kind of agree with you, but what happens when we have a 6 with an exclamation point? Here's what it means. It's a way to write the multiplication of all integers starting with a specific number. Our specific number is 6. And now we want to write the multiplication of all integers all the way down to 1. Factorial is denoted by an exclamation point after the number or the letter. All right, so here's 6 exclamation. Here's what it means. It means 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay? And you could do it like that on your calculator if you want, but most calculators do have a factorial button on them. You just need to find where yours is. So if I do 6 factorial, I will get 720. Okay, let's verify that and let's see. Let's make sure that that button actually worked. Okay, so we'll just go back over here. And what is 6 times 5? Well, 6 times 5 is 30. We could do this. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, so we end up with 24 times 30. All right, so let's go to that. So we got 720. I'll write that down, 720. Okay, let's make sure that our button worked there. So 30 times 24, 30 times 24 equals 720. Okay, so our button did work. So 6 factorial is 720. The way that you do that is you just go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, multiply them all together, and that gives you your answer. All right, the reason I had to show you that is because on both permutations and combinations, we have to use the factorial. So we have to know what it means. This is the first time, at least in Algebra 2, that you've seen it. You have seen it in other classes if you've been in Abeka books for very long. They kind of sneak it into different places, and so maybe this isn't the first time that you've seen it. All right, so what are we going to do here? We are going to, when we have a permutation, we are going to set it up into this formula right here. All right, so here's one right here. Here is 20. That's our n. 8 is our r, and we're going to put it into the formula. So n, 20, factorial, over, parenthesis, 20 minus 8 factorial. Now, there's a little trick here, and here's the trick. You don't have to use these big numbers if you don't want to. You can cancel some of these numbers and make it a little bit easier to work with. How do you do that? Well, you would do let's just solve this. So 20 factorial over 12 factorial. Now, watch what happens when I write this out. So if I start at 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, and then down to 1. Now, watch what happens if I start at 12, 11, 10, 9, all the way to 1. If you notice, at some point, I'm going to get to 12 on this one, on the top. Watch what I can do. I can cancel the bottom with this part that starts at 12. In other words, I just have to go from 20 to 13. Okay, and so you can do that and you can cancel some things out. Depending on how your calculator works, you might not want to do that, because if you do that, then it can be a little bit harder based on how your calculator works. But it's an interesting concept that you can cancel a big section. Here's what I would do with this right here. I would just take this and I would plug this into my calculator. So you come over here and you just do 20 factorial. So mine I have to do 20 first and then factorial, and that's a big number, okay? Divided by, and I'm going to do parentheses, 12 factorial, parentheses equal. And my answer is going to be, check out this answer for algebra, right? This is crazy. 5 billion 79 million. So 5 billion 79 million 110,400. Woo! Big number. Now, remember what I said earlier about I wouldn't want to count that high? I gave you an easy one with the hamburgers and the hot dogs and the pizza. But this one is a little different story, right? I don't want to count to 5 billion. So using the formula is the way to go on these. So just learn how to use the formula, then learn how to use your calculator with the formula. All right, let's do one with a combination now. The only difference here is that we have a C instead of a P. We also have to use a different formula, so make sure that you learn the difference between the two formulas. We're going to do n factorial over r factorial times n minus r factorial. So we're going to do it the same way, just plug your numbers in. So 20 factorial over r factorial, which is 8 factorial, times n minus r. So n is 20 minus 8 parenthesis factorial. Just let's solve that out, and we would come up with 20 factorial over 8 factorial times 12 factorial. And what we would want to do now is go to the calculator, and we're just going to do that. You got to know when to put parentheses and things like that. So I'll do 20 factorial divided by parentheses 8 factorial, close my times, I guess I can just do times, 12 factorial equals. The answer to this one is 125,970. 125,970. And that example is on page 485. And then there's some other examples there as well. I'm not going to go through every example. I feel like once you kind of get the process, you can just do it. Now, I guess the hard part here is when they give it to you in word problems, and you have to figure out, okay, which one is a permutation and which one is a combination. And let me just explain it to you this way. If they say anything about the order it needs to be in, like if they say, okay, this has to go first, this has to go second, if there's any reference at all to the order, then it's a combination. If there's no reference to the order, it just can be anything, any random thing. They just say, well, this, randomly, and that is a permutation. So that's the easiest way to do it when they give it to you in story problem form. Okay? Well, that's all I have for you in this lesson. Hopefully you understood it. If you didn't, if you missed anything, slide it back. Make sure to work on your calculators. Man, this is getting really important that you know all of these buttons on your calculators. Make sure you're working on your formulas. We're adding formulas and adding formulas every lesson. So keep up with those. Keep up with the buttons on your calculator. Make sure you know what each one does, how to put parentheses in your calculator, all that stuff, so that it knows how to process these the correct way. All right, that's all I got for you. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.